and he rises from the depths of hell.
I am hell. I'm in.
Uh,
What's the seven wares of hell? Whatever it's
the
called.
the nine levels of hell or whatever, Dante's Inferno,
Yeah, I'm in Dante's Inferno.
and you're also missing your right arm. It's like
Ah,
gone
good.
in the video.
I don't need it anymore. Fuck, man. I feel like I'm missing a right arm after this last week. Actually, these
Like
last 2 weeks.
Anakin.
Oh man. Well, welcome back, boys. It's good to be back. Gone for a
Week
hot minute
13.
there. Yeah, week 13. Fuck, what a couple of weeks it's been. Ah, when I'm vac.
I've been feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure you have been, bud. It's good. I'm glad Will Wilson can enjoy the sweet taste of victory while, I'm over here supposed to be on vac. I went to Mexico. It's partially why we didn't film and then came back, Thanksgiving. So, anyways, classic Wilson time. Made it back, but yeah, man, it's been a brutal couple of weeks. I literally got on the plane to come back from Mexico right before that Monday Night Football game with the Cardinals and the 49ers. And I was like, oh, yeah, pretty good lead. Rondale Moore probably go out there. Couldn't really see what was happening at all. And I noticed that on what they had like dish satellite or whatever on the plane. And I like peeped over and I saw this guy watching Monday Night Football. I was like, oh shit, we can actually watch that. So I turned it on. Lo and behold, first thing I see out there is Greg Dortch running around. I'm like, now why the hell is Greg Dortch out there on the field? That can't be good. There's no context behind it. They don't say anything about Rondale until I finally land and my phone starts blowing up with the group me and everything. And it's like, oh, Rondale getting injured on the first play.
Yeah,
Ah,
it's tough.
so annoying. It was so funny though. Because I couldn't pull up sleeper. I was, watching the game, so I'd see like Kittle get his tutty, another tutty, and then the we had turbulence, so the game went out for a little bit, and it came back on, and the score was like just astronomical. I was like, dude, there better be a Christian McCaffrey touchdown in there somewhere. And it's like, nope, Debo Samuel 49-yard rush, tutty. So I was like trying to crunch up all the numbers. I was trying to remember what Peyton and I's score was, and I was trying to do the math like manually. And I was like, well, it's my calculations. I think I lose. And sure enough,
Well, George Kittle was like a young stallion out in the middle of a field, just running around, galloping into the end zone on you too. That's tough.
yeah, man. And then this last week, God, I can't believe it's like an all-time low losing to COD. And you know what, COD sitting in there, even Garrett can beat me and stuff. I don't know if like that's supposed to be an insult to me or to you, but either way, it's like Kyler Murray puts up his second best performance of the year as soon as he comes back from his hammy, and just so much bullshit. Like that game going into overtime, Nick Chubb was pretty well tamed throughout most of that game, and then overtime comes around. It's like, dude, we got Chubb. I forgot, and just starts running the rock, gets a touchdown. Najee gets his tutty, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, COD, I'm done for the rest of the game." But at least I got you up on the score. I
Yeah,
just there's so much pent up frustration in me. But anyways,
no,
it's not about me.
it's been it's been a pretty wild couple of weeks. As I say, both my matchups came down to you know, well, I guess not the last one, but the one 3 weeks ago it came to Austin Eckler on Monday Night Football, and he didn't make do it for me. And then the week with Jaden, it was Sunday Night Football, and Eckler barely pulled it out. So I say it's been a little bit of a sweat show the last couple of weeks, especially people trying to get into the playoffs and such. So a lot of tight buttholes out there.
Yeah, it's a lot of tight buttholes. Thank you, Nut. I feel like you jinxed my team, by the way. I remember listening to
Undefeated.
yeah, it's like listening to him on his podcast there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't see how Dill, doesn't go like 3-1." And it was debate, and it's like, "Oh no, he's got the rest of the weeks there. He's gonna be solid and lose the COD." I'm like, "All right, motherfucker, just like setting this up for me now for this week against Nut, which I am." I was listening to the Podley, and Noah's talking about the pressure being off these teams that pretty much have nothing to play for. I mean, just got to get ready for your Sacco tournament there. And I feel all the pressure. I'm like, every day I wake up going into this week, I keep looking at my roster, and I'm like, am I doing the right thing, the right moves? what do I need to do to make sure that I just lock in this victory? And because Nutt has been sneakily putting up some points, and I feel like, our projection shows me being about what, 14, 13 points, but I feel like it's a trap game. I feel like Nutt's getting a hold of Sleeper and just setting this up for a real, just like catastrophic ending to my season.
I don't know. I hope that he is correct about, you know, the fight of their lives with Calvin and B Johns in week 14. That's really the juice that I want to spew. I want it to
Yeah,
spew everywhere.
I think that it's gonna come down to that. I mean, obviously it depends how this week goes, but I don't know, man. B. Johns is really slipping. That his team is just so depleted, and the projections got him beating Brian right now. But I mean, we'll get into this in a little bit. It's looking tough for B. Johns, and Cal's got you this week, so it could really set up for that nice juicy week 14 playing game, and kind of the way things have been shaking out with Jesse and I too. I mean, shit, Jesse and I are both on a two game losing streak right now, and it's like, again, depends what happens this week, but we could have a nice little juicy week 14. Then all you guys, battling out for that flex seating up there. I mean, big game between Cleaner, Jaden. It could determine a lot of stuff. Gabi's got to keep riding that win streak to keep pace. Um,
All I gotta say is sometimes the fantasy gods need to be reprimanded, and that's what I did earlier in the season. And they listened and they repented, and now they understand what needs to happen.
yeah, well, I gotta get on my altar apparently and get on my
Well, you have
knees a little
Taysom
bit
Hill.
more.
Yeah, you have Taysom Hill, dude. You gotta pray to the man every week because hey, let's not forget who put up a nice 30+ point game against Nut. For me, old Taysom Hill. Pray to your Lord and
Uh,
Savior.
You're right. I need to be making sacrifices this week. How poetic would it be to play Days of Hill against Nut again? He just puts up like a 30 burger.
Sure, that would just cap off his fucking shitty ice cream sundae season.
Oh man, I would love it so much. Yes, I will be making sacrifices. I'll cut my dick off and give it to the gods if they need that.
Wow, that'd be the ultimate sacrifice. And then they would probably just be like, well, this thing's rotted. So
Yeah, you're like, wow, this thing's like a burnt piece of leather. Like, not much you can do
like,
with
we
this
actually
thing.
don't want this. This is actually,
Yeah,
this must be a prank.
yeah, that it pisses him off and Justin Fields puts up 40. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh, yeah,
man.
for sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's crazy though. Week 13. Can't believe we made it here. Season feels like it just blown by, as it always does. It's always a little
Yeah, these
bit.
last two weeks just felt like they just went whoop because it was just so many games on Thursday, It just felt like everything was just like so condensed. And
Mhm.
yeah, the last 2 weeks I feel like I don't even know. I like try to listen to Gobby Talks. I try to listen to Podly, and by the time I'm finishing it with throughout the first couple of days of the week, right, they're like already games starting and everything, and I'm like, holy shit! I was like I feel like I'm trying to like pack everything into one,
Oh
so
yeah. No,
just feels like it's crunched together.
I hear you. When I was driving down to Roseburg for Thanksgiving, I was just trying to bust out all those, Gobby Talks episodes and Podly and everything. And which, by the way, really enjoying the interviews on Gobby Talks. I think that's pretty cool, getting everybody involved and just hearing everybody's kind of perspective on, how their season's been going, what they've kind of noticed. And of course, shout out to Nut. Always good episodes. The missing the point is it's pretty entertaining, just
It
oh,
reminds me of just like an episode of The Twilight Zone.
yeah.
Just just everyone you're just like looking, you're like thinking about all these numbers in your head and these scenarios and stuff, and you're like, none of this makes sense.
It's like as soon as the music kicks on, it's kind of eerie. And yeah, it's like I could see like all these like numbers kind of like floating around, like an hourglass like floats by in the background.
Yeah, I like that. It gets me thinking a lot more because sometimes I'm just sitting there just being like, yes, just give me all the knowledge, nut. But that one, it like almost makes me think like, oh yeah, Okay. Oh yeah, I remember him talking about in week 2 that he did this, or in week 7 this happened, or something like that. So it gets me thinking a little bit more.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's very interesting stuff. And just to know how like shitty some of these positions have been for some people. I mean, to Nutt's point, to like everybody was, there's a couple of teams that were struggling with QBs out there, and it's just this whole thing with Brian just kind of slipped off the radar, and then Nutt bringing
Well,
the focus.
just think about it. I just want to remember how dumb Calvin is sometimes, in the sense that he started Tyler Higbee again last week. 0 targets, 0 receptions, 0 yards, played the least amount of snaps all week. And I remember just, what was it, only 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and that was just shitting on him about Tyler Higbee. And that motherfucker just kept riding that horse, dude.
It's too funny. It's like Calvin couldn't accept that, so he's like, "I'm gonna show Nut, go get pick up that Higby again."
Well, see, that's kind of like to B. John's point when I was listening to Gobby talks, right? It was
Yeah.
just, Calvin cannot admit defeat in anything. So I wouldn't be surprised if Calvin starts Djax this week, just because, this whole like poetic thing of Djax always going off against me and just sitting there. I feel like he wants to always prove a point somehow and be like, I'm not wrong. This is the way that it's supposed to go. I could see Djax doing something. He just throws him in there last minute or something like that. I don't think he will, but if he did, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh yeah, it's kind of the Sean Watson thing too. He's already beating the drum on Watson, just being this hog after not playing 2 years of football. I don't know. We have that, so we bet on DraftKings, right, on the games, and it allows you to like share your bets in the social group that we have. And I just see Calvin in there putting down a couple of bets on the spread with the Browns Houston game. And it's like, dude's just pounding that Deshaun wherever he can. It kills me.
It's actually it's so funny that Calvin's had him on for 2 consecutive years, like almost the whole time for both seasons. Neither season has he played, and finally, this man is like, I don't even know, like he's he's being thrown into this situation, and for some reason, he's going against top 10 pass defense. It's the Browns; they like to run the ball and everything. I just don't see it. 700 days off, and you think that the guy's going to be a hog? There's rust, and that's like a big time thing. Like it's like almost throwing like a backup in there after not playing for like the first like 6 games of the year, right? Like obviously Deshaun Watson's more, more, he's a veteran and he's played more games and he has more talent, but it's like it still takes some time to get in there. Like the dude's just throwing against people in practice, and it's not
Well,
like the Browns or anything special. You're not
well,
playing against Jalen Ramsey out there.
um, eh, also, I mean, yeah, he's a veteran, but there's been veteran QBs, Tom Brady's of the world, Peyton Manning, came back after long periods of absence. Theirs was due to injury, but still, you don't play for a long time like that. A lot of those guys didn't just hop back in there and just kill it. I mean, maybe Manning you could argue, but he also had a full offseason with when he left the Colts after that neck injury and had a whole
And
offseason
he
to prepare with them.
and a plethora of players, Wes Welker, friggin' Demarius Thomas, all these guys, And then we look
Yeah.
at the Browns and it's like, all right, you got Amari Cooper. And then I guess if David Njoku gets his Super Saiyan powers that week or something like that, maybe he'll go off. But it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's not the best thing in the world, and but speaks to Cal's volume and how much he can hype up himself.
Well, yeah, exactly. So speaking of Cal, use that as a little segue here to get into our weekly picks. Um, Start off by going over our records since it's been a while since we've looked into this, but right now I lead the way 25-5. You caught up, made a little bit of ground, so you're now 22-8. And together
Mm-hmm.
we are back to a losing record at 4-5. So
We're good at this.
yeah. Yeah, I guess we give ourselves the easy matchups and of course the hard matchup we can't figure out. So
Yes.
um let's hop right into it. So week 13, we'll start you off at you with Gare versus Jesse. What you got?
Yeah. This one, man, after Garrett getting that one win on the season, I just really had to think about it a lot, but not really, because I'm gonna go with Jesse on this one. And crap bag's still crappy. I don't care what his name is, he's still crap bag. and the man's still deciding on what kind of what kicker to use, what to put in his flex. Like I just look at the team and there's a lot of injuries, and that doesn't even help out a guy that doesn't really have much on his team in the first place. So I'm going with Jesse in this one. I don't think it's going to be very close. So unfortunately for you, that kind of hurts your playoff situation. But taking Jesse over Garrett in this one.
Yes, not ideal timing, and Garrett should have stuck with crap bag. I don't know why he changed his name to I have hemorrhoids. I get the office reference, but at the end of the day, it's crap bag. So,
No, yeah, I want crap back. But your first, so let's go to your first matchup. So you got COD versus Tron.
well, I have a personal vendetta against COD at this point. But regardless of that, pretty easy pick. Going Tron. Tron's got a good squad. I don't really have to say much because really it comes down to no Kyler Murray this week, so he's gonna rock Rodgers, who banged up, and then dude doesn't have a defense. And he didn't even bother to go into waivers and try to get anything for this week. Like, what are you doing, COD? I don't understand. It's like you get this little sliver of hope of possibly making the playoffs, and you just like, no, fuck that. Like, I'm gonna go
Gotta get
right.
some wow in.
Yeah, I gotta get some wow in. I've already settled on going back in the Sacco tourney. So whatever, man. We're just gonna ride it out. Wake me up when, week 15 starts and I'm battling that toilet seat. So yeah, pretty easy. Like, who you gonna start at defense, COD? Like, you fucked up, bud.
I yeah, teach you a lesson, COD. I picked up the Falcons defense, so you can fuck right off.
Yeah. And I got your beloved Steelers, so that'll teach you. Up next for you, got more of a high powered matchup here. So you got Cleaner versus that sweet baby J.
Yeah, my rivals this year have been I've been battling with Destiny all year long. Like it was just back to back weeks. I lost to Destiny one week, and the next week I ended Destiny. But in this one, it's going to be a close one, and who knows who's going to win this one because it's both teams are full throttle, both teams high projections. But in my own personal feeling, I want Jaden to win because I'm going to beat Cal this week, but I want Jaden to win because that'll bring down Cleaner, move me up to the top spot. Also, I kind of just look at it in the sense that Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, like Amari Cooper's built this rapport with Jacoby Brissett, and now they're switching it up in the middle of the season, right? That even if Cooper ends up being good later on down the road with Deshaun Watson, I think this is the first game. There could be some hiccups with that, and that's the biggest downfall, right? For Cleaner is just going to be his wide receiving core and the flex position, and I think Jaden has an edge in that spot. So I'm going with Jaden this week. Jaden takes him down. They both end up to be 9-4, and then I take the number one spot.
Wow. All right. No
Go
bias in that.
Well, no, absolutely not. There's no vendettas or bias going on right now for either of us.
Yeah. No, we are completely fair network here.
Yeah. Your next matchup, we're looking at Brian versus B. Johns.
All right. So, kind of what I was alluding to earlier with B. Johns. Uh, I know Brian's projected lower than him at the moment, but I just see B. Johns' team like the no Cooper Cup is really killing him. The dude's just on a spiral right now. And look at his matchups this week. He's got to start both Miami running backs against that San Francisco 49ers defense. That is going to be tough. Um, I don't really know, if Saquon could carry the full load. Maybe Herbert does something, but you go over to Brian's team, like what Isaiah Pacheco's been doing lately. Jonathan Taylor could have had a monster game against Pittsburgh, but I think if there's anything the Colts realize, especially from that game the other night, is they need to get the ball to Taylor more. And I know it's against Dallas's D, but our like Dallas's D like run defense isn't really that great. Um, so I can see him having a big game and kind of just have a feeling like Gabriel Davis is due for one of those bigger games. Uh, a lot of it went to Isaiah McKenzie last week. He's just been kind of down, so I don't know. I could see that being more of a boom game for Davis. And then like I like Christian Watson. Dulcich has actually been doing stuff lately. Like I don't know. I think Brian, his projection's lower than it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not a big fan of some of Brandon's matchups, and until he can, you know, start really proving himself, like pulling himself out of that spiral, then I'm not gonna pick him. So also I need Brandon to lose this week. So let's go, Brian.
Hell yeah.
So finish you off. You got me versus Nut.
Yeah, this one it's
You
a
know
little
who
bit
to
tougher,
pick.
right? Yeah, it's a little bit tougher, right? Because like we were just talking about, it could be a trap game. But what I would say is that the only people that Nut can really rely on to like keep this this winning ability alive is going to be like Justin Fields and ETN, both banged up right now. Who knows if Justin Fields play? I don't even know why the Bears would be playing Justin Fields, especially if he's got stuff going on with that shoulder. There's like separation, and everything like that. It's a really big risk where he could create something more and potentially like lead into an off-season type thing that's going to be a little bit worse for him. And so if Justin Fields doesn't go, Travis Etienne's a little banged up, right? Like Jerry Judy, he was banged up. I'd say I think that that's going to be a bit. It's going to hinder him because if he doesn't have Justin Fields, then he's throwing in Mike White, and I know he's praying to the Lords for that one. But I think your team with Jamar Chase coming back and everything, I think that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase kind of lead this squad, and it's destiny. Taysom Hill has to have a good game against Nuts, so I'm going to take you in this one. So you keep your playoff hopes alive a little bit longer.
Yes.
And then the last one for you is going to be myself versus Calvin.
Yeah. So Calvin's team is projected so high this week. I was looking at it and was just trying to really piece that together. I it's tough. I mean, this can be a close matchup. It really is going to come down to Kamara. Like, I don't really know. He got banged up a little bit in that last game, but then I guess he was on the sideline. He was ready to go again. So, but even still, he didn't really do much. And now he's going against Tampa Bay's run defense, which, yeah, Nick Chubb just killed him, but like Brown's running game is much better than the Saints. And I, like, who the hell knows what the Deshaun Watson thing? I feel like a lot of it's going to ride on that. Uh, I don't mind the Godwin, Christian Kirk, Cowboys D against Indianapolis is going to be juicy. But then, you flip it over to your side over there. It's like no Damian Harris. So it's going to be the Ramondre Stevenson show. Eckler gets the Raiders. Um, Tua could still have a nice game against the 49ers. Like, I don't feel like the 49ers have really played any teams lately that could actually throw the ball on them. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. Like 15 points for him, I feel like it's kind of low. And
Mm-hmm.
then um Diggs gonna do his thing. Like just the rest of your matchups when I'm looking at like Higgins versus KC, like I feel like that Bengals game with the Chiefs is gonna be a shootout. So
Mm-hmm.
T. Higgins has been balling out. And yeah, so I don't know, just I think that both you guys have a couple of good matchups, but you just have more of the star players. So I'm leaning towards you. And Calvin just got too many question marks right now with two of his main players, like the Watson and Kamara thing. It's just so hard to pinpoint like what's actually going to happen there. So I'm gonna go with you.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. I'm still not going to get over the fact that Deshaun Watson is projected almost 20 points against a top 10 pass defense, but Tua's going against even a lesser pass defense this week, and they still only project him at 15 points. No, and nobody's giving Tua any love, and I hate the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to give Tua all my love. And kind of like
Well,
Nat said, I got to put all my eggs in Tua's basket because he's the one that's going to have to carry me.
yeah, I mean maybe it's because it's the Texans. I know the Texans act like says on paper that they've been solid, but shit, they just got carved up by your boy. So
Well,
Real-
and the biggest thing for the Texans, it's the run. Like their run rush defense is ass. Like they're like almost bottom of the league, but their pass defense they're in the top 10. So
yeah,
it's because teams can just run the shit out. Run like, and it's a problem with like Tua, right? Like people get such a big lead on him that they just run the rock.
except for dude, that's what I was talking about with those Dolphins running backs. They didn't do anything against. Well, I guess I don't think most are played, but Wilson definitely didn't do anything. And yeah, it's just tough. So Our together matchup of the week, we have Dizzle versus Gobby.
Yes, this is a close one.
Close one. Got a couple of questionable boys in there.
A lot of questionable boys, and then yeah, Gobby's needs to fix his he needs to drop somebody because Joe Mixon's not out anymore. But I think if Joe Mixon plays in this, I think Gobby takes this one. Like I don't know. I just don't trust Diz to score a lot of points. Like he got scored a decent amount last week, but like throughout the whole year, it's just been so like up and down with it. And if I know anything, I was talking to you about this earlier. Over the last 8 weeks, Gobby's opponents have been averaging 77 points per game. So the fact that they're averaging 77 points and we're talking about Dizzle, who hasn't really scored a lot of points this year, I think they both might not even reach their projections. But if Joe Mixon plays, I feel a lot more solid about Gobby winning this.
Yes. I my big thing is Devontae Smith's dealing with a groin injury right now, and his status is definitely up in the air. You got Sanders against the Tennessee run defense, which has been pretty fucking good. And then, yeah, it really comes down to like, can Pollard's got to do something for him. You know, Derrick Henry can get what he needs to get, like he can hog out, but Disney needs somebody else on his team to step up. DK is going against Jalen Ramsey. And so, yeah, when Gobby gets Mixon in there, I mean, he's got a lot of green matchups.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't think he would really need Lamar Jackson. I really like what Brandon Ayuk's been doing lately too. He's been killing it. So I don't really like the Richie James thing, but regardless, I mean, he's got enough hogs and plus matchups in there. Yeah, I see him getting it done. I feel like this could be the week that I think he continues his win streak, but I also feel like this is where like he can kind of silence, people's doubts about his team and what's been going on.
Yeah, I just it just kind of alludes to the fact that I, I don't know. Gobby's team is like I like the team, like like the players on the team, right? It's just they don't do what you expect them to do. Like Nut was talking about it. He's not even he's slowly decreasing on the leaderboards for running backs, and almost I want to say a six of his running back points came from that one game from Joe Mixon.
Oh yeah.
And so that's the only problem. And then like right for his wide receivers, that one game by AJ Brown was like boom. And so Gobby gets like these really big boom games, and then all these other weeks it's kind of like nobody really scores a lot. It's like they're
Hmm.
playing good, but they're not like you're not seeing big plays from them. Maybe this is the week where one of those guys just booms again. But that's the problem. That's the scary thing about going into the playoffs for Gobby too, right? It's just you don't want to go into it thinking that you have to rely on somebody to just have a breakout game. Like last week, I felt really good because like seven of my players scored 10 plus points. That's nice because it's that consistency. But when you have like those like that team where you have to rely on one person to score 30 plus points for you in order to get like a high point mark and be able to win that game, it just really like you feel really like uneasy through it.
Yeah. No, I agree. You want consistency, right? Especially going into the playoffs. So, like on the flip side of that, with Diz, his teams, he can't find consistency outside of Derrick Henry.
I guess
You
you could
know,
say Diz's team is consistent at not scoring a lot of points. Like,
yeah, it's just interesting, you know. And then it's like Pollard shits the bed, kind of, and then you got Miles Sanders blowing up. But yeah, I I just think that Gobby kind of gets it right this week. I don't know, Mixon coming back healthy is going to help him out a lot. So, yeah, so that's the picks for this week. And then kind of some things I just wanted to look back on because I was looking at some of our notes from our pre-draft show. And so a couple of things to really be looking at. And one of them's not really set in stone yet. Actually, I guess two of them technically. Um, So if you remember right, Cody this year was looking to match the record for most consecutive losing seasons. So that record is currently held by Brian at 5. So if Cody loses one more game, he now ties that record. Nice accolade for him, which from the looks of it this week, it looks like he'll be doing that. And
Good for
then
you, my boy.
on top of that, another astute accolade that COD can have is matching the longest playoff drought at 5 seasons, also held by Brian as well. So, um, you know, two uh two things that COD can feel accomplished about with this season. And let's
Yeah,
not
he did it.
forget, we're not really, obviously it's kind of hard to predict the Sacco at the moment, but if he does miss the playoffs, well, COD could be also trying to tie for 3 sack or not even tie. You'd have the record for most consecutive sackos. So,
Oh,
um,
easily.
couple things to look out there, and then shout out to the rookies, Cleaner and Diz. So they are by far Alec already has set the record for the best rookie season in our league's history. Because previously it was held by Gobby at an 8-5 record. And then Dizzle can actually, if he wins out, he could also break that record. If not, if he loses 2, then I guess he slides under Gobby there. But yeah, so rookie's actually done pretty damn well. Who would have thought that Alec would be number 1 in our league right now?
I would have never thought that. Get this cat on my face. Um, no, it's actually wild to me because I think Gabi was talking about it with B Johns, and it's just kind of talking about after the draft. I remember seeing Alex team and just being like, "Well, this looks like a draft from somebody that just got into the league, right?"
Yep.
I just I never would have thought that Josh Jacobs would have been the number 1 running back in fantasy this year. Like you couldn't have given me any type of odds, and I've been like, oh yeah, Josh Jacobs, dude. Like no, like they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. There was no hope for this dude. The offense, the team looks like shit. Like it's not a good offensive line. Like, but the dude is just absolutely destroying everything.
Yeah, it's pretty mind blowing that he's where he's at now. I actually saw a meme earlier on Twitter of it's like SpongeBob praying to a picture of Josh Jacobs for like the discounted price because I think like in standard snake drafts or whatnot, he was drafting like the 6th round or something like that on average.
Yeah,
Just mind blowing. Fantasy, it's a finicky bitch, man. I tell you. But
but it literally
here
got
we are.
drafted number no, with $32. Like, just think about the B Johns of the world who spent $82 on Jonathan Taylor, and you got Josh Jacobs going for $32 and potentially can be the number 1 fantasy running back at the end of the year. You're like, what?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how did this happen?
Like
Uh,
Jonathan Taylor's probably going to get signed for probably like a massive contract. Like they're not going to decline his option. Josh Jacobs very well could just end up on a different team next year because they didn't even believe in him and they're like, nah, we don't really want to re-sign this guy. So he could possibly not even be a Raider next year.
it's classic Raiders, man.
God. Yeah, no,
But
it's pretty wild to see these I'm I just don't even know how Dizzle is above 500. Like it's actually pretty wild to me.
I mean, some of I mean, you get the wonky games throughout each season, right? But this year just feels especially strange. The whole the matchup against him and B Johns, where literally Dizzle had nobody else to play, and B Johns loses with his kicker. Like all he had to do was bang one field goal, and he would have won. Um, couple of
There's
games,
a lot of weird things happening.
yeah, a couple of games decided by less than a point. Me and B Johns was none COD. I just it's so hard to like put your finger on anything this year.
Yeah. Well,
And
and then you think about like Alec and Jaden just riding that same record the whole entire year. Like the odds of that happening are just so slim to none that it was wild to me. It was, I don't know if it was the fact that like all their opponents' bye weeks of like their best players like matched up or something like that, or what happened. I just don't even understand how it gets to that point. Because you would think that there's one game out there where one person shit the bed and the other person had a good game, had a good week, right? Like that's all it takes is one person to have like a bad week that like, you know, oh, they could have possibly been projected to win, but that person's team didn't put up the same projection. But it was like their opponents were like doing the exact fucking same thing every single time.
it was pretty wild. It's kind of like they were like holding hands and just skipping along, like we're having a good time this season, while everybody else is down in the fucking mud, like walkers from The Walking Dead, just let me in.
Yeah, like how comforting could that be? Where maybe Jaden has two guys playing on a Thursday night and they put up 40 points total combined, and Alec can just look at it and be like, "This could be a good week."
Yeah, seriously.
I can put whoever I want in here, and I'm probably gonna win.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't know. I'm so fantasy just really irks
Like
me so
deflated,
hard.
bro. Like,
I am deflated. I'm the deflated balloon.
man,
It's like the between the luck and then just I don't know. I don't know if it's luck or I guess I mean some of it's been mismanagement, but
I hope some people get this reference, but Dylan, like, like you right now reminds me of that scene in Don't Be a Menace in South Central, like drinking your juice in the hood, where essentially they go and I feel like the top four teams, like me, Jaden, Cleaner, and Gobby. It's that scene where the dude goes out there and they go beat him up, and they're just playing Ring Around the Rosie and like with locked
no,
arms and
yeah.
jumping up and down on that guy, and that guy's literally a pancake, and they're just like having a good old time, and you're just down there just getting crushed.
uh dude, I mean after this loss to COD, I feel like I'm a flattened pancake. I just, it's just so funny to me. It's like there's some weeks you go into and you're like, oh yeah, this should be a cakewalk, right? Like, dude, I literally going into Thanksgiving last week, I was like, man, this should be such an easy week. Like, thank God I got COD this week. I just need to get another victory under my belt, make myself feel comfortable. And then we're watching those games and Thielen gets that tutty, and I was like, man, I got a bad feeling about this week now. It was like, see, it was like the first game where I really saw it happening was when CD, which I thought should have been a touchdown. Okay, riddle me this. And I don't know, what people's thoughts are about this, but I was talking to some other people outside of our league about it. So, do you think that when a wide receiver, okay, so you have to do the toe tap, right? So on CD's case, the 1 foot scrapes across in bounds, but then when he gets his other foot down, his toes land first in the end zone, but then his heel, it's all in one motion, right? So toes touch first and then his heel comes down on the line. So apparently it's an actual rule in the NFL that in that case, it's considered out of bounds because that toe to heel motion there is all one motion. It's not the same as, if like you're catching and you're sliding out with your toes coming out. But in the NFL, it's an actual rule where that's considered out of bounds. I am like, I just don't know if I agree with that. It was a catch, man. It was a catch. Throw it the fucking X.
It's always the Cowboys, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
serious.
I
Hey,
don't know.
and I'm telling you guys need to watch on Thursday Night Football that on HBO Max or whatever they have, the shop or whatever with LeBron James and all those guys and uh, Maverick Carter Maverick, whatever the fuck his
Yeah,
name is.
Margaret Cat Carter, Maverick Carter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and but you guys need to watch that. I was dying, dude. Like they had Jamie Foxx on there, and that guy is funny as fuck. But also they had Dez in there, and everybody's like the whole time, and I'm like, "Fuck you, Dez! Like get out of here." But Jalen Ramsey was in there too, and Jalen Ramsey's over there talking about they're talking. him and Des are talking about what they would do if they matched up 1-on-1 and how they would guard each other, and they're just back and forth, just like Des like I'm catching everything, and Jalen's like you ain't getting none. And I was like, man, it was just so funny because it was
That's
just like a
cool.
bunch of athletes and like comedians talking about it. But they're doing another one. I think next. Is it this week? Who's playing? No, next week. But anyways, yeah,
Did they
you guys
just
should
start that
definitely.
up? Is that like new?
Yeah, that was the first one.
That's pretty
But
cool.
dude, Jamie Foxx had me dying because he does impersonations too. So he's impersonating all these people in the NFL, and he's just, bro, I was cracking up the whole time because usually I'm watching football, right? I'm just paying attention to the game. I'm not even like I'm just straight faced, right? Like,
Yeah.
but dude, I was dying. So I was like, that was nice.
Yeah, no, that sounds cool. Definitely want to check that out. I've watched The Shop like so many of their episodes, and it's always pretty good. Especially like Jamie Foxx, I've seen on there a couple. Like he's been on a couple of their episodes. Dude kills it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
did they switch? I'm guessing they probably rotate people out,
yeah. I
get
don't
like
know
different
who's gonna
people
be
in
in
there.
because the game that they're doing next has the Rams. Well, we're supposed to have the Rams on there. I don't know if they changed that up. Um, but no, the Rams are supposed to be on there, so they wouldn't obviously have Jalen Ramsey he's playing that day. So, but no, definitely you should check it out. It's pretty fucking funny.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely will. It's got to be much better than the Manning show on Monday Night Football.
Well, let's get back into our league talk because we actually haven't been doing this for very long. We actually are making pretty good time here. Um, let's let's do a couple different scenarios here. I just kind of want to think about this and get your take on it. Who do you
Okay.
think right now um, drops out of the playoffs, and like who drops out of the playoffs? Like out of the bottom three teams, you have Diz, you have uh, Calvin, you have B Johns. Do you think any of those guys drop out? Like, and what's the likelihood of those? Rank them in order, 1 through 3.
Well, so likelihood of them dropping out. So number one being safest, or I guess what?
Number one being like that's the person that's going to be out.
Okay, okay. So for me, it's got to be B. Johns, number one. And the reason I say that, again, it's because of his team. The dude is just falling. He's free falling. Like the man jumped out of a plane with no parachute. I don't know how he picks it up. I mean, normally if he had a squad still, like say if he had a healthy squad, I have no problem with him being Brian and then probably being Cal next week.
Hmm.
But without that, I don't know if he can win these next two games. And his points for it's just been so bad all year. Like that was the thing we talked about throughout the season. Everybody's been talking about it. It's like B. John's being that number one seed, dude had no points. And then he has a couple injuries, and now look, it's like, oh shit, those points would have been huge for him in tiebreaker situations. But even outside of that, it's hard to see him winning the next two games personally and getting in there. Next would have to be Cal. I think playing against you is going to be tough. It's going to put him in a situation. Again, the points four.
Hmm.
He loses out to either Jesse or I if we can kind of pour, shit together here. And then it's weird because I was almost dead certain that Diz wasn't going to make the playoffs, but after he got that comeback victory against Calvin last week, just having the edge, like dude only really has to win one more game and he's good.
He's got crap bag next.
Yeah, and he's got crap bag to finish off the season. Yeah, it's like
How what a nice little piece of pie for old Diz on his rookie
mhm.
year. He's like facing the possibility of dropping out of the playoffs, comes back, beats his cousin, and then he gets to play crap bag twice in 1 year.
Yeah, what a blessing, man. I would pay good
All
money to
right.
play crap bag twice.
So we got number one, B John's number two, C then number three, we got Diz. All right.
Right.
Now let's think about Sacco. Who who we think of the matchup's gonna be the two teams that will end up in the Sacco this year.
So Tron actually asked me this question earlier. So I have Gare is almost a shoe-in.
Hmm.
Yeah, dude, I mean, we all know crap bags crappy, but I also had, and I told Tron this, I have B Johns going. I just think that if B John slips out of the playoffs, I mean, it kind of depends how the bracket shakes out. Because I'm also looking at COD too. But depending on how the bracket shakes out, Nutt's been doing pretty well for what he's got. And if
Yeah, if
ETN's,
Justin Fields keeps playing.
yeah, if Fields, ETN stay healthy, like he's got enough to keep himself away from it. Brian, I mean, he's got if JT, like I said, JT could have had a monster game, and that's the thing when you're going into the Sacco, right? It's like you don't necessarily have to put up 100. It's not like you're going to the playoffs and you're playing all the Hog teams. You don't have to put up 100 points to beat them. You can beat somebody
Hmm.
off 80 points. 90, you're doing pretty solid. And
Yeah.
so it's just Brandon slips out and he goes down there, and I feel like the rest of these teams, maybe outside of COD's team, have just enough juice in them to be able to take him down, just kind of send him on down there. I don't know, man. It could be looking at Brandon crap
But
bag
can,
shootout.
but can anybody lose the crap bag? Even if they make it, like Gare is averaging an astonishing shitty amount of points every week. Like I feel like you could have your whole team could really have a subpar week and still somehow come on top with Gare. Or is it just Gare like the betting favorite at this point?
Well, I think Jaden alluded to it in his interview with Gobby that maybe Garrett's been playing the long game here. He's been kind of figuring that he's going to go to the Sacco, so he set himself up for pretty solid matchups in that Sacco Bowl. It's still hard to pick him, but I don't know, man. DJ Moore's actually been relevant lately, which is annoying, but he's been doing things. Maybe he gets Mike Williams back at that point. We need Leonard come back and actually be healthy. Jamal Williams been getting fucking tutty a week. Like you could just have
Hmm.
enough. But I'm still it's hard. I feel like until you see anything different, right? I feel like you gotta pick crap bags still to get it.
Yeah.
Um, but I, I don't know, man. I think it'd be Brandon. I feel like or that fucking COD going back.
Yeah, I think it's tough because you look at Brandon's team and it's not like because you look at the other teams right that are at the very bottom and you think like even COD, his team, you look at it and it's just not good and you don't feel confident about it whatsoever. But like B John's team, I look at it and there's people on the team that I'm like confident in it, but they never get it done. And I think it's just a curse that Brandon has or something like that where it's that San Diego air or something like it just
It's
he, he,
polluted.
he walks outside, takes a nice deep breath in, and then he just goes and shits the bed. Like
Yeah,
like I don't know. Like yeah, because I bet Cooper Cup gets shut down for the rest of the season. He's on IR right now, but why would you ever bring him back? The
there's no way they're
season's
bringing him
lost.
back. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no way.
So now you're riding in there with one hog. You got Saquon, and everybody
Right.
else down here has one hog, right? You look at these people like you don't think Jamal Williams is a hog, but the dude is looking like James Conner from last year, right? Doesn't have to get a bunch of yards. He's just going to get 2 to 3 touchdowns a game almost.
Yeah.
So, and you look at Nuts team. You got Justin Fields, dude can go off and score half the points of one team per week. So there's just a lot of. I look at that and yeah, there's a possibility B Johns goes
Well,
down there based off of just subpar performances from his players every week.
who do you think goes to Sacco?
Mm. Well, I got Gary going in because he's just, if I was a betting man, I would be taking him.
Well, it doesn't help he's got the bye too. I mean,
Yeah. But I'm thinking COD loses these next 2 games, and I bet Nut or Scheimer, they probably win one of these 2 games next. And you, if Nut wins one game and COD loses out, Nut's got the same record as him, and definitely got the points for. If Brian somehow pulls out a miracle and wins the next 2 weeks, and COD loses the next 2 weeks, Brian's gonna have the points for because COD just doesn't score anything. So there we go. We got COD with a bye. We got Garrett with a bye in that constellation bracket. I see COD and Garrett battling it out in the Sacco Bowl.
Yeah, it's interesting. Didn't even notice this before, but Nut plays COD week 14.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, I COD whatever that win was last week is a fucking fluke because the dude has
You're
been
telling me, buddy.
astronomically bad, and there's it's just nothing looking good for him. I don't care what Kyler Murray did last week. He's not Kyler Murray of past seasons. I think COD goes down there, and I think COD takes it. I think he gets a three-peat. Like it's written in like I feel like since the draft day and we waxed him, like we waxed like it was like carving in stone, like third Sacco, but instead it was just waxing it in his hair.
Uh,
And the blood was just like the cherry on top. It was just like
yeah,
the bleeding spelled like third Sacco or
we
something.
put a hex on him.
Seriously. I don't know. And then okay, so let's finish it off with this. So now I'm just going to go top four teams, right? Because these are all the four teams right now that are really just battling it out for just the flex ranking
Yeah.
week in and week out. There's a possibility that Trone moves up in there, but he's still that middle, and that he's still in that middle portion of it right now where he looks like a lock for probably the fifth, maybe the fourth, or maybe the sixth, but definitely the fifth seed. Out of the top four teams, who you think who are the two people that make it to the end?
All right, let me think about this a second. So, what do we pick? So we picked you, Jaden, and Gobby to win this week.
Because if we look at it right now, where we finish off. So let's think about this right now. If the season ended and it was playoffs and we picked flex seating right now, Alec would be picking probably B Johns or like Dizzle
Yeah,
or something like that. But if it stays this way going forward, like this same exact four in the same exact positioning,
right.
they would face off in the second round against each other.
Well, okay, so essentially, Alec would pick B Johns, and I'm guessing you'd pick Diz,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So Alec beats B Johns, you beat Diz. That would probably leave like I'm guessing Jaden picks Calvin at that point, and then Tron and Gobby have to play each other. So
But if you look at the standings right now,
no, I know.
even it doesn't. Yeah.
I'm
So
just
no matter
I'm
what, yeah.
kind of
So
playing out
you'd
the
be
I'm playing out the bracket a little bit, and I hmm, I think Jaden makes it back because the way it would shake out is that so like okay, hypothetically, right? Alec picks B Johns, and then Gobby picks Trone, which slides Trone down to the same bracket as like the same side of the bracket as you and Gobby. So
mhm.
then it would be between, Jaden's playing Cal, and then so essentially I'm thinking Jaden would win, Alec could win. That means they'd have to face each other, which
Mhm.
that would just be juicy. Um and then it would be, so okay, and out of that, I'm gonna pick Jaden just because I I don't know. I have such a hard time with Alex team with those wide receivers outside of Amari Cooper. And I just have a feeling that it's gonna bite him in the ass in the playoffs, where he has a more well-rounded team.
Mhm.
Um, so I got Jaden going in, and then that leaves you with against Diz, you
My
beat Diz, and then I probably have Trone beating Gobby. Oh man, that'd be I mean, honestly, it's hard to go against you because like you've been so goddamn consistent. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably have to go Jaden and you, in the playoffs or in the
Oh,
championship.
I meet sweet baby J.
It'd be a tough one though. I feel like if Pate won and if Pate has a healthy team at that point, then I feel like Pate has a really strong team. Like
I
he
think just
has,
historically speaking, like I feel like Fate's always against Trone in the playoffs, right? Like Trone
hmm
always goes in like with a solid team. He's doing good, usually riding like some kind of nice little win streak or something like that, or he's putting up a lot of points. And then he always gets to the playoffs and he just always comes up a little bit short. I feel like the fantasy gods have something out for Trone where they're like, yeah, we'll let you feel good and then we'll just crush you. Right?
we're not allowed to speak on it either because Trump got on to me about this, about talking about the health of his team. And then, like, I think it was like right after that episode, he had a couple players get injured, and he's like, "God damn you guys!" And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, man." So we won't put that in the air for him. But yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Because when you're talking about going into the playoffs, it's all about consistency. Kind of like you were talking about with Gabi, right? You don't want those boom or bust. Yeah, it's nice to have. Well, it's obviously nice when you get the booms, but it's like you just want more, just a consistent, solid, like just like point output from your players.
Yeah,
And
because what if like round one you get your boom and then you go into round two and get your bust?
oh, dude, how many times have we seen it in the playoffs throughout the years? And also, the thing with Gabi's team is this is what makes me nervous for him. Just like in all of sports, right? Like obviously this isn't a sport that like we're physically playing, but it's kind of the same concept. It's you want to be peaking at the right time. And I feel like Gabi's been peaking for like he's already been peaked and he's been
Hmm.
riding this win streak. And it's
Yeah,
like,
it's in baseball terms. This is really big in baseball, right? Is that you don't want to have the best record going into the postseason because then you get a bye and you don't play for a while and you lose that momentum. And
mhm.
then it's like like it was like this last year, right? Like the Phillies did so good because they played a wild card game. It's like their season never ended, so they just kept riding that momentum.
Well, isn't this what happened to Gabi last year as well? Rode that
Yeah.
winning streak and then got all the way to the championship and lost. So that's what makes me nervous for him, where everybody else has kind of been having to grind it out. And I'm not saying Gabi hasn't been grinding, but it's just, I don't know. You don't want to peak too early. And I know that's actually happened with Trone before too, where he was riding a win streak going into the playoffs and then loses. So, um, yeah, I mean, I, I mean, if I were to ask you the same question, though, would you put yourself in the championship?
If it shaked out the way that it is right now, like this was like the standings, um, I would feel pretty confident. I think the biggest thing is I just really don't want to go against Alec or Jaden in the
hmm
earlier rounds. I'd rather be like, all right, now I got to be put on my Rocky Balboa face, put the gloves on and everything like that in the finals and be like, all right, now this is when I need to like outscore the people that have been outscoring everybody all year long. So like if I didn't have to face them in either round one or round two, which I probably won't have to face them in round one regardless, but round two, if they just face off against each other and the two like high scoring Goliaths take out one or the other, then I have no problem being the David going into the finals. So I feel more confident if it plays out in this sense. But if it shakes up a little bit and I got to play against Alec or Jaden in round two, then I'd feel a little bit less confident.
Yeah.
So I think in my head, and if I'm thinking completely non-biased and not me just wanting to win the championship, right? I'm thinking if it stays the way that it is right now, I go to the ship. But if Alec or Jaden somehow fall a little bit and it ends up being where they wouldn't face off each other in round two, then I think it would be Alec and Jaden in the finals.
So yeah, and it'll be interesting, right? Because they play each other this week. And so if
Mm-hmm.
Alec beats Jaden, and let's say Gabi wins, like we're predicting, then it completely switches that up. So now you got
Mm-hmm.
Jaden falling down to the side of the bracket that you're in, and
Yeah,
Gabi
I
moving
think
up.
I think this is a good segue into next week when we talk about this because we're really going to have a more crystal clear. Like we're going to see if it's going to shape out to be the same, right? Like if Jaden beats Alec this week, then they're basically the same record, and and then it doesn't really shift much with the flex seating. But if Jaden loses Alex this week, then I would like to have the conversation next week because then we can look at it a little bit differently.
Yeah, and I think we're in consensus though that, and I think a lot of people even, trying to make the playoffs, right? Anybody that's trying to get in the playoffs, you're thinking about playoffs, you want Jaden and Alex team that you want Jaden and Alex to be in that one side of the bracket over there, duking it out.
100%. So whoever's going to be in the playoffs just needs to want to hope that everything stays basically the same throughout the end of the year.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
then obviously the bottom four the bottom four seeds, right? Obviously you and Jesse and B Johns and everybody down there want to make sure that it changes a lot.
Well, in a way, we kind of need to change a little bit, in some cases. But let me ask you this: if so, who would you want to see not make the playoffs?
Who would I not want to see to make the playoffs?
Yeah, like who do you want to miss the playoffs?
Oh, Steven for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want Calvin to just, oh man, I want him to not make the playoffs because we know when he gets to the playoffs, he's not going to win the ship. Like we know that's going to be the case. Calvin never does.
Well,
He's not going
well,
to do
take the. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody's in agreement on that. But, but
it.
take the personal opinion out of it. I'm just saying, like, if you're looking at a team that you really just don't want to see make it in.
Calvin.
Yeah, same. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want Calvin to be in there because Calvin, even though, you know, even with personal reasons why, just wanted to not make it, but otherwise his team's pretty stacked. Like that's why I fucking hate that Diz traded him that Devonte Adams because man, that dude's gonna be fucking consistent all year long, and now Chris Godwin's looking great, and then you got Kamara, and Zeke's gonna eat up the touchdowns, and it's just there's a lot of things. And what if Deshaun Watson does come out and becomes a baller again, which I
Yeah.
would bet against it, but if he does, then I just don't want to face that team.
Isn't that crazy to look back on that? It's not too often that you see the number one overall player in their position get traded, right? And
You never see it. Like the amount of people, there's multiple people this year that asked me for Stephon Diggs, and I was like, there's just no price. Like he was the number one wide receiver for like he's still the number one wide receiver right now, but I think there was 1 or 2 weeks he wasn't. But there was no price that somebody was going to give me. Like, okay, if somebody threw out $50 or something like that, right?
well,
Like
yeah,
the Chubb thing,
you
then
think
yeah, but there was no way I'm swapping players and being like,
you think about like Kelsey, right? Number one player at his position, tied in, but Alec had to pay. I mean, he had to pay a lot to get him, right? Where you look at Devontae, number one position, and like you're talking more of a premium position too, wide receiver. Um, Calvin didn't have to pay a lot, so it's funny to look back on.
yeah, I think about it. I think about it this way too, and I was thinking about this, and I just I don't understand the whole thing with the Pollard situation. Like I still don't see why Diz couldn't. You could have went Gare and got the Jamal Williams. Like I'm sure that could have been even something because at that point he hadn't capped out completely at that point either, and Diz had pieces to give up, and
Yeah,
Gare was looking for a wide receiver for a long time, and that was the one thing that we knew about Diz is he had a pretty decent wide receiver depth. So,
yeah, he
especially
did.
with George Pickens being good and stuff like that, and Gare loves those keepers too. So there was like, but it's
No,
all it's all history now.
no, it's true. Um,
But okay, so if Jaden and I make the ship, who wins?
let me look at something real fast here.
I wouldn't like for me. It's like there's a strong likelihood that Jaden would beat me.
I think, I mean, it's hard to tell without actually looking at. Oh, I guess I can't really look at
No.
their you guys' matchups. Yeah, yeah, it's so hard to pick. I mean, if I'm just going off of like stats and everything, probably have to say Jaden.
Yeah.
How many points he's been putting up? He's been consistent. I mean, it's not like you haven't been consistent. be a lot nicer if I could actually see the matchups for you guys as players that week to really get a
Well,
clear
I can
picture.
tell you one thing that throughout the playoffs, my matchups aren't too bad, but that championship game, I have to be doing a lot of shuffling. Trust me, I've been keeping my eyes in the future. I've been really looking into that. But no, all right.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's nice. A little more clarity and everything like that.
yeah,
Kind of what we're looking at this point, because right now that's we're everything that we talk about is just situational stuff now, and
very situational.
I think it's what everybody gets really juiced up about towards the end of the year, right? Like I think that's why now when we listen to Gobby talks and we're listening to B Johns talk about his likelihood of making the playoffs, and then we listen to Nut and he's talking about like how these like analytics are playing into it and historical like speaking like stats and stuff like that, you know, because you just start making up situations in your head. So I think people just we like that. We like thinking about what if this
Yeah,
happened or what if this happens, right?
hell yeah, brother. I've literally played out about a billion situations in my head in the last couple of days. I wasn't doing
Yeah.
it before the whole COD matchup, but then after that went down, I think I've spent every single day putting a good chunk of my thought into the what ifs and what would need to happen. It's gonna be a crazy, crazy week. I honestly don't know how it's gonna shake out for any of us. I feel like there's a
Yeah.
couple of matchups out there that could be like trap games for certain people, including myself. And then, I feel like there's some gimmies out there, which doesn't, it's like the gimmies too are playing such a huge role this week with, I mean, like Jesse getting to play Gare, it's like that's huge for the people trying to make the playoffs right now. And then, uh, wow, Trone also, I guess you could throw in there with COD because technically,
Well, B John's getting Chimer, you know, like Chimer is on a
yeah, but is that a
pretty
gimme
solid
or
losing.
is it?
It's a pretty well. He's on a pretty solid losing streak. So you think
That's
that like
true.
they both are really like who's gonna break the fucking losing streak? Like it's both. They're both very impressive right now.
Yeah, I guess something's got to
Six,
give there.
we got B John's on a 5 game losing streak and Chimer on a 6 game. Like,
Oh, it's brutal.
who's gonna end it?
Has Bijan's
Yeah,
won a game since he was number one seed before his
yeah. He
yeah.
was 5-0, and then lost one, and then he won the next week, I believe. So he's 6-1, and then he's just been spiraling.
God damn.
It's like we're all just like sitting in the back. We're like sitting in the tub or something like that, right? And somebody just pulled out the drain, and we're all just watching B Johns, and he's just circling. It actually makes sense because he's really small, so he can maybe fit down the drain.
Oh man,
I
except for
think,
that
but I think
big I was gonna say,
what?
except for his big mouth, I'd probably get
Well,
stuck.
possibly.
At least he was a little bit humble on the Gobby talks there.
Yeah,
At least I think he
the
was.
that's not the B Johns we know.
Yeah.
You don't
I
want to
like
disrupt anybody in the club, I guess.
he's too busy getting crunk in the club.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that's gonna do it for this week.
Yeah. It's good to be back. Glad we got an episode in. Looking forward to the drama. I feel like it's like episode of The Bachelor, like the most dramatic week yet. It's like,
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to hear that Gobby talks with old Diz.
yeah, I'm real curious to see what Diz has to spray. Um, I talk to him every day since I live with him, but want to know. Gobby's got good questions. That's what I enjoy about the interviews. He got good questions and allows his, uh, person to talk there. So, be really interesting. I know Diz is pretty. He's got his mindset. He's making those playoffs. I'm like, well, I don't know, man.
Well, yeah. Besides that, always shout out Nut Report, shout out Podley,
Yes, sir.
give the goat his props.
Yeah. No, it's always good stuff. All right, boys. Well, yeah, we'll call it for this week here. Good luck to
Kept it nice
everybody
and long
except for
for you.
Nut. Oh yeah, had that rambling in there. I think Jaden was saying that we need to make it longer, just more rambling. I'm like, trying to think of like segments and stuff, and it's like at this point, man, we're just the ramblers. Like,
Well,
right?
we're talking. I'm talking about a scene in a movie at one point, and then you're trying to discuss NFL play calling, like the rule book.
Yeah, it was a catch, dude.
All right. Well, I think that's
Uh,
it.
yeah, for sure. All right, boys. See you out there on the battlefield.
There, boys.